Are you a crocheter who loves a good mindless crochet project, but you're kind of running out of family and friends to give your makes to? Well, I've got some inspiration for you, so stick around for that. And if you recently took advantage of the Aldi yarn drop where we got some amazing new colors, I've got inspiration for how you can turn one of these into one of these. So stick around because I've made a couple more beanies on the newest Aldi yarn drop. So stick with me and I'll tell you more. So welcome. If you're a new subscriber, thank you so much for being here. And if this is the first time you're seeing me, I'm Jody with Meadowbank Crochet. I live in England and I've created a charitable organization, which is where we can all get together as makers to crochet beanie hats, which we then donate to hospitals. So if that sounds interesting, whether you want to get involved and help us make beanie hats or you're just here for the yarn inspiration, I'm really happy you're here. Each week, I'm going to give you an update on the business side of setting up my charity. I'll then show the eye candy of the beanie hats that I created that week, and then we'll dive into my yarn stash and we'll do some prepping and planning for the hats and the yarns that I want to use to make next week's hats that I'll show you. All right, so let's get started. Okay, so for the business update, the first thing that I did is in YouTube, if you're not aware, for subscribers of a channel, creators can enable something called a community page. And so I've done that for the Meadowbank Crochet community. So if you're a subscriber, 24 hours after you subscribe, you should then have access to my community area. And that's just a space where I want to be able to collaborate with you. I want to know what you're working on. Did you make a beanie hat? Did you follow my tutorial to make a beanie hat? How did that turn out? I want to see pictures. Or if you're just crocheting something else, or if you're a different type of fiber artist, I'd be really interested in seeing what you're working on and, you know, maybe what you're working on as you're watching YouTube videos. I know I crochet while I'm watching YouTube, and so I would love the opportunity to collaborate with all of you and just get to know you a little bit more. Also in that community area, I'll be giving you a little sneak peek into what I'm working on for each week's video. And if you've got ideas for me on what I could be doing either on the business side of building out this charity or whatever you want to share, I really am looking forward to engaging with you in that community space. So that was the first thing on the business side that I wanted to do. The next thing is I'm still working on sort of the marketing of Meadowbank Crochet and trying to get more makers aware of this opportunity to get involved and help make beanie hats for hospital patients. And so I've been creating some shorts, and I did a sort of stash busting short, which is around how you can take tiny little balls of yarn and turn those into beanie hats. So I'll put the reel here of that short that I created. And that's been going really well. I'm almost at 200 views, so not amazing, but not terrible. I'm gonna keep working on my shorts and keep getting better at that. Again, I'm new at all of this, I'm learning. If you've got ideas, share them with me, please. So that was the business side of things. So the other side of the business is, of course, getting all of our beanie hats donated to hospitals so that patients can benefit from them. I've already donated 80 beanie hats to 2 different hospitals. I've reached out to those hospitals. One of them is already completely out of hats, so I'm working to facilitate or coordinate on when I'm going to go ahead and drop 40 more to them. At the moment, you'll see here on the counter, I've got a lot in my stockpile. So we'll be getting some of those put together, and I'll share that with you in a future video. So that's it for the business side. Let's move on to some eye candy. So let me share with you the hats that I've made this week. And so let's grab my stockpile of beanie hats. Oh my gosh. As you can see, I was pretty successful this week in creating my stockpile of beanie hats. So let me explain this counter here for a second. Because it's warm weather right now in the UK where I live, I'm in the process of just building up my stockpile so that once the hospitals I'm already donating to are out of stock, or as I start to acquire new partnerships with new hospitals who want our beanie hats donated to them for their patients, that I've got some on hand. So this number here represents what I've already made and what's ready to go to be donated once a hospital is ready to receive them. So let's look at what I've created and we'll add to that number. So let's go. So I already showed you this one. This is again made out of the Aldi yarn from this week's drop. So I was able to make this beanie hat out of this really colorful yarn. And so that's my first beanie hat that I made this week. Then getting into the yarn that I had planned to use, this was a double-stranded beanie, and those two strands made this hat. I put a pink hat tag on this guy. My next one is this pink hat, which again, double-stranded, and the video probably doesn't pick it up, but there's some silver sort of, well, it's sort of multicolored sparkly yarn in here. So this one in person is quite sparkly. So this is the next one that I made. Then I had cotton yarn, which made up this hat, but it also made another one. So I had enough of this cotton yarn to make two of these. So add those to the stockpile. Then I am obsessed with how these came out. So I had this massive ball of yarn, which ended up making two beanie hats. So this is just such a fun color. I'm for sure buying this again. So those are added to my stockpile. Okay, random lighting error fixed, I think. We'll see. I'm back. The next one was this, which again, double-stranded, and because it was double-stranded with two skeins of yarn, that was enough to make two full beanies. I have to say the yarn chicken on this went down to, I had like inches of yarn left. So this was an epic and stressful game of yarn chicken, but I won, and there's two of those. Then those were all of the beanies that I made because I expected the Aldi yarn drop to be on Thursday, but I don't know if any of you experienced this. The flyer said that the yarn drop was going to be on Thursday, but then the website said it was going to be Sunday. I didn't see that until I'd already gone to Aldi on Thursday morning and they didn't have any yarn. So they then said it was delayed to Sunday. So I know I wasn't the only person who did that. Anyway, because I'd already used up all the yarn that I'd planned to use, because I was leaving room for my Aldi yarn that I thought I was going to get on Thursday, I pulled from my scrap stockpile and was able to make this beanie hat, which is a nice stripy beanie hat that just uses these little balls of yarn to create a stripy beanie hat. So that was that guy. But then I got my hands on the Aldi yarn. And so in addition to the yarn that I used to make the pink, orange, yellow hat that I showed you first, the next one that I have is this guy. So again, this is more Aldi yarn. So this glitter yarn from Aldi that they've just released made this beanie hat. And again, this Aldi yarn, I really am enjoying working with it because the color changes so frequently that you're just really never bored of the yarn. It's just constantly changing. And again, it doesn't show up very well on the video, but this has a really nice silver sparkly thread running through it. So this is the next one that I added to my stockpile. Finally, another Aldi yarn, more of the glitter yarn that they just released. And that made this guy here. So again, really nice, constant color changing. This has got a nice sort of gray and purple and pink in it, and it has a gold metallic thread running through it. So this was the final hat that I added to my stockpile, all ready to be donated once hospitals are ready to start receiving more hats. So that was my hat building for this week. And just as a side note, if you do use these Aldi yarn balls to make a beanie hat, if you follow the instructions on my YouTube tutorial, which you can find on my channel in my videos, if you use my tutorial to the size that I tell you to do with the size hook and all of that, one of these balls will make a complete beanie hat. And just for info, this is how much was left in the pink beanie hat that I made with this yarn. So just as a heads up, one of these does make a full beanie hat, and this is how much I have left that I will then add to my yarn ball stash to be used at a later time. I make stripy beanie hats out of these little balls of yarn. So now let's look at the yarn that I plan to use this week to make future hats. The first thing I'll say is I went to the Aldi yarn sale with a budget in mind, and I didn't stick to my budget. This is completely full of Aldi yarn, and if that wasn't bad enough, there's more. I went a little over my budget, like twice my budget. I couldn't help myself. Anyway, so let's dive into what I bought, and I'll show you what I'm going to use this week to make some more hats. So first things first, I absolutely love this new color that they came out with. I think it's just called pink orange. Not very creative, but it's pink, orange, and yellow. I really loved using this one. It worked up really quickly. It's nice and soft, and so I'm gonna definitely make another hat with this. The next, of course, using the Aldi yarn. I've already showed you the glitter rainbow yarns that I've used to make the two beanie hats, but I've got more of it. So I'm going to make a couple more of those because I really liked the way that those worked up. The only thing I will say about the glitter yarn, and it's really true of almost any yarn that has a metallic thread running through it, if the metallic thread is twisted around in the yarn, which these two are, you just have to be really careful when you're crocheting that your crochet hook is picking up the thread, because it can sometimes sort of just get stuck. And so it's a little bit slower to crochet with these, but the end result is really good if you just are kind of slow down and make sure that you're keeping the yarn twisted together. It makes up really nicely. So I'm going to use both of these to make some more beanie hats. Next in the Aldi drop were these guys here, which again are rainbow yarns, but they're not sparkly. So these are just the same as the orange and yellow and pink one was. No sparkles, and so I'm going to make these guys into some nice pastel beanie hats with some nice color options there. So I'll make those two into some beanie hats. Then I want to make some more pink yarn pink hats to go into my stash. So I bought some Aran yarn to make another beanie hat, and then I also got this DK yarn from Aldi, and I'm going to make this into two different pink beanie hats, one lighter pink, one hot pink. So I'll make those guys. That's all the Aldi yarn that I think I'm going to use this week. To mix it up a little, I've also got this cotton yarn that I've had for a while, and I want to go ahead and use this up to make some beanie hats. So this is enough that I think it should make 2 full beanie hats. So I'll make these guys into some beanie hats. And last but not least, I've got this guy here, which I want to go ahead and make into a beanie hat. This will make a full beanie hat, and then there's enough left that I can make half of another beanie hat. So I have another ball of this, which I'll make into a beanie hat, and then the 2 bits that are left will make 1 more. So with 2 of these skeins, I can make 3 beanie hats. So I'll make 1 more with this. And so those are my yarn scrap or my yarn stash plans for this week for the hats that I think I'm going to be able to make. We'll see how I do and how many I actually get done. And you can find that out if you watch next week's video, where I will update you on the hats that I created. So that's it for this week's video. Thank you so much for being here. Again, if you want to learn more about Meadowbank Crochet, if getting involved and making beanie hats to donate to hospital patients sounds interesting, you can learn more on my website, www.meadowbankcrochet.uk. No matter where you are in the world, go check that out, and you can learn a little bit more about how you maybe can get involved. And with that, I will say, do all the YouTubey things, and I really appreciate you being here. Thank you so much for being a part of this community, no matter how you're contributing. Even just being here watching my video is helping me more than I can tell you. So thank you so much. I hope you're having a fantastic day wherever you are, and we'll see you next week. Thanks so much, everyone. Bye.